Modern society has engineered convenience so well that it has completely disconnected us from what makes us human, and it is making us weak. We live in the most advanced era in human history, yet we are more anxious, inflamed, disconnected, and fatigued than ever. We've traded real food for convenience, movement for comfort, sunlight for screens, and now we're being sold this idea that, the solution to all these problems lies in a new and potential pharmaceutical, potentially steroids or some supplements here and there. What if I suggested something completely different? Maybe our bodies aren't broken. Maybe we don't need this new futuristic pharmaceutical supplement, right? Maybe the solution lies not in something new, but in that which is forgotten. This is why modern life is making us weak and what we could do about it. So this isn't about rejecting modern advancement. This is about rejecting that what makes you weak, right? We need to stop abandoning that what makes us human. To a large degree, our ancestors lived in vastly different environments. They were moving consistently, walking, running, hunting. They were like hinging or climbing or hanging on trees and stuff or climbing trees, To a very large degree, we were using our vessels in a certain manner and living in accordance with nature, right? In nature, between the animals, and now with modern advancements, which has a lot of beautiful aspects to it, we have stripped ourselves and our bodies from environments that we have evolved in and thrive in. And now we wonder why our bodies are busy being decayed. Right? But it's because it's not being used properly. So all I'm trying to suggest is taking the good from modern advancement, but then also rebuking that which is making us weak, and trying to reincorporate ancestral movements, living, right? Eating whole foods, trying to get and rely on our food to be our main source of healing, right? And health, and not relying on pharmaceuticals predominantly. I really think that when we start living in accordance with nature, the amount that we rely on pharmaceuticals will drastically decrease, if not completely be removed. Today's environments is predominantly overwhelmed by artificial environments, lack of movement, because we're not hunting for our food anymore. We are becoming desensitized to the process that actually takes place when we buy food. We take it for granted completely. Our ancestors, they weren't counting calories, right? They didn't have a gym or sauna. Okay, they jumped in the cold river that was close by the waterfall. They moved around. That life was gym, right? And now, think about this, going 300 years ago, like 300 years back, imagine you had to tell the people that time, oh yeah, we created these environments to mimic physical activity, to push ourselves physically. Because like on a day-to-day, we are so sedentary and we don't really move that we need this to have a healthy vessel. How crazy does that sound, So I think part of the benefits of modern life is we essentially have a lot more energy or focus that we can now, because we don't need to go out and hunt our food, right? So what we now can do is because we have such easy access to food, we have extra time to focus on other things, right? So we are not forced to walk to school or to work or whatever, so we do have a car. So there are things that we need to utilize, but we just need to remember that when we start operating in a certain manner and stripping ourselves from a lot of how our body and our vessel has evolved to operate, there is consequences for living in discordance with nature. And so what I'm trying to do is taking that excess energy or focus that we now have, redirecting that into domains that can improve myself as well as the human race and the people around me. But that's true. We aren't forced to have to work physically and to use our vessel. So the people that actually do and hit the gym will be benefited so much more because you need to do it willingly. And it's not easy, right? It's not easy, but it's so worth it. And your body will thank you for it. And there's a reason why, 50 years ago, our testosterone levels have decreased by 50%, half of the amount, which is crazy. And there's so many different factors that come into play. So we're looking back at our ancestors, or just like 50 years ago, you know, if you look at the average person on the street, obviously I'm referring to photos right now, but you had odd obese person here and there, but you know, people weren't having all these crazy inflammatory diseases or obese, and apparently the average American is fatter than the average pig. How crazy does that sound, you know? I think it is because we are leading a lot less active life, and that is not a good thing. And so we need to reincorporate living according to nature, walking, you know, moving our bodies, eating good whole foods to get back to, you know, where we were. Progression doesn't always mean creating new things. Maybe it just comes down to remembering that which has been forgotten. Got some bone broth. Let's go. Got some beef tallow at the bottom. All right, so look at this. Beautiful. Awesome yogurt. I know Campiel. It's amazing, good quality yogurt. And then also look at this milk. So if the milk separates like this, as you can see that compared to that, even the Campiel, which is amazing yogurt. Okay, if it separates, it usually means less processed, more nutrients, and closer to what nature intends, right? Closer to raw milk. So maybe just less pasteurized, a little bit less, or maybe it's not even hormonized, you know? So yeah, highly recommend looking at milk that separates, essentially the cream being on the top. So health isn't complicated, okay? It arguably only has 5 pillars. We've got nutrition, which is all the food you see over here. Okay, I'm actually eating my afternoon meal. Then we got movement, we got stress, sleep, and environment. And if you want to reclaim your health and your vitality, you need to look at these 5 pillars. So starting with nutrition, as you can see, this is a pretty standard meal that I tend to eat every single day. 200 grams of chicken, some avo, and some sourdough. And then all the food that I purchased today, as you saw in the car, it's got some raw milk, we got some kefir, good quality yogurt in here. The closer you get to the source and the raw you get it, the more nutrient value it will have. So for example, raw versus pasteurized is just higher nutrient value, more enzymes, you know, essentially being able to break down lactose much easier. You know, kefir obviously has a lot more of the actual bacteria in here, which is good for your gut health. You got some organic robustia, cucumber, chicken, blueberries, sourdough, good quality of yogurt, and then free range sirloin steak, and then some avo. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so it's busy raining, but I just want to get this point across, right? You know, so when we're looking at food being one of the pillars of health, you want to really focus on just a couple of things. Then you've got it dialed in. So single ingredient, whole foods, all of these are single ingredient, minimally processed. You got free range meat. This is about a week's worth of food. This is around a week's worth of food. My eggs and some of my complex carbs are at home, but we've got some carrots, we've got some avo, got some high quality yogurt right here. Organic coffee, you guys already know Woolworths but this is one of the better coffees that you can get, probably the best out there for like the cheapest price. Sourdough, great quality, free range steak, organic robust tea, love tea, okay, so for nightly routine. Cucumbers, blueberries, frozen blueberries. What's cool about frozen is you freeze it when it's in season, right? And the nutrients usually stay better intact if it's frozen. We got some chicken here, basically raw milk here. Oh, we got some milk kefir as well, and then some high quality water. The cool about Thirst, go and check them out. I like sparkling because it allows me to drink more, but also the TDS is fairly high. It's like 273. So essentially, there's probably more minerals in here that allows us to, you know, be hydrated. Yeah, it's raining right now, but we're not afraid of the weather. Trying to get you guys a good view here in nature, but yeah, it's just raining and it's cold and all my food is wet now, but it is what it is, part of the game. All right, and so movement, you know, like I think a big thing is you want to incorporate different types of movements, but the main thing is to just be intentional with it, right? Like I am here filming this video, essentially working a bit, you know, but after this, go for a little 5-10 minute walk, even though it's raining. After I eat, usually go for 5 to 10 minute walks to help with digestion. I aim for 13,500 steps a day. You want to try and see if we can get at least 10k steps. So even like, because it's winter now, me and my fiance, we usually just go in the morning to do cardio, and I'll also do some fluid movement. So just stretching, opening up my body, you know, hanging on a pull-up bar, just moving your body, making, like, we're going to be sitting the whole day and working. Like you want to really move your body. 95% sleep score, love to see that. steps, 6 months average, 11,600. So I still need to pump up those numbers, trying to get it a bit higher, but essentially doing stuff like this. So every day walking around 12k steps, and then also really trying to move my body as well, like more fluid movements, stretching, hanging, opening of the body, stuff like that. And then also 1 hour 50 minutes of really weight training. Okay, I'm obviously training for the high rocks now, but when that's finished, I'm going to really try and get as strong as possible body weight. So a lot of weighted pull-ups, dips, and then some compound movements as well. But yeah, that's it for like the movement aspect. And part of just as eating helps with if you don't eat 3 to 4 hours before you go to bed, you're not going to digest food when you are sleeping, so that's going to aid with the stress and the sleep as well. But also with training, if you are out here moving your body, getting that like masculine sense of stress out by hitting the gym, training, moving your body, MMA, like boxing, whatever the case may be, you are removing a lot of stress, getting it out there, physical movement, but then also it's going to allow you to sleep better because you actually moved your body. Your body's actually tired. So all these things join together, For example, the food as well. When you're looking at more like whole foods, it's not going to be high glycemic. It's not going to spike your blood sugar as much. So for example, just take steel cut oats versus rolled oats, right? So steel cut oats are not going to spike your blood sugar as much. Whereas, rolled oats, which is still a phenomenal option, much better than just normal oats, but it's going to be a bit more high glycemic, right? So it's going to spike your blood sugar. So all these things play a factor in the general, form of health. And that's what I'm saying. Like, people saying just count your calories and macros and then you're good. Like, it's fucking bullshit, bro. Like, that's definitely not the case. When I'm saying living in accordance with nature and counting ingredients rather than calories, right? Like, you are going to be able to, like our ancestors, we're not going to be obese, right? So you are going to be able to, who's going to overeat on whole foods? You can't overeat on apples and rice and chicken and eggs, right? So you don't have to then count your calories. Obviously I still do because I want a specific outcome, but the main thing is if you are eating whole food, single ingredient type of foods as close to the source as possible, you're going to get all your nutrients in that you need. So you're going to be healthier, you're going to feel better, you're going to be more satiated because your body has all the nutrients and the minerals it's looking for. Then you don't need to have all these supplements, right? I used to drink a lot of supplements, but now I realize just by investing in better food, I don't need supplements. So yeah, that's the take with the food. All right, environment, sleep, and stress. Okay, so in many ways, I would say they all work together. If we look at, for example, just stress, our environment plays a big role in aiding sleep, and sleep in a macro level, is one of the most efficient ways to deal with stress, But also, you can't really sleep well if you are stressed. So, all these things are intertwined in many ways. And I think that's the beauty of, start hitting the gym or start eating healthy, is then you try and optimize all these domains and you get exposed to all the different pillars of health, So yeah, when it comes to environment, we're talking about grounding, getting your feet on soil, whether that be in the ocean, maybe on grass, every day, try and touch the grass, whatever. Come outside, get some fresh air. And then also your immediate environment plays also a big role, So for example, when I want to sleep, my environment is optimized for that. So as you will see as I pull up the footage now, but red light gets switched on as soon as the sun sets to optimize for my circadian rhythm, right? So I have these LED lights in the top of my room. I also have a lot of plants, for example, in my bathroom, So to, always have a sense of nature in my immediate environment. And then also environment plays a big role with people you surround yourself with, okay? Your tribe, that's a big thing. Like our ancestors were very big on tribe. We are tribal people, right? And I think in the modern age we tend to I don't know if we are optimizing for true fellowship and tribe. That's what partly the Founders Acquisition and School of Athens is for. Link in the description if you want to go have a look at that. But we have over 3,100 people in there, like-minded individuals, and I attribute almost all my success to the people I surrounded myself with and who I studied from. So yeah, tribe is extremely important, And then when it comes to sleep, right? Our ancestors, they weren't scrolling at night, on their phone with blue light beaming in their eyes, or first thing in the morning, boom, blue light on their phone. So they were much more aligned with the sun cycle. And so, for example, it just felt nice that is, the sun hitting your face in the morning, waking up, getting beamed by sunlight to be like, boom, let's move, let's wake up, our bodies work on an internal 24-hour clock, our circadian rhythm, our sleep-wake cycle, and it gets influenced by light information. So when I'm getting light information into my eyes, for example, this light, it's midday light, so it's exactly the same as blue light. And so this is telling my body through my eyes to stay awake, don't produce melatonin, cortisol, like we need to stay awake, stay optimized, because we need to do things, right? Epinephrine, that's the type of things that, my body is getting signaled to produce. Whereas, when I'm looking at the sunset or sunrise, where the light's predominantly more red, more easy on our eyes, that tells our body to then be a bit more chilled. Okay, that's why we do the red light. That optimizes for the sleep. Okay, and then also when it comes to our stress, I highly recommend, when we need to remember that our ancestors had acute forms of stress, running away from a lion or whatever. Like, it was much more like every now and then it was intense, but then it got removed again, right? Like, we are now in a day and age where our stress is predominantly consistent, right? So we have chronic form of stress. Every day we need to pay the bills, electricity, all these things we are comparing ourselves to everyone else on social media. We want the nicer car, the bigger house, the better brands, all these things, the newer phone. Where, our ancestors, they had acute forms of stress. Obviously they had the general, I need to put food on the table, and maybe, there's a war that might take place or whatever with a different tribe. But the main thing is, it was mostly just when they got attacked by a predator, right? Now it's all these different forms of stress. So we need to adapt to the times, right? And I think by escaping to nature like this, having a bit of a walk, looking at the ducks, right? Sun, grounding with Mother Nature, and, prayer is a big thing. I go to church. It's a very big part of my life. I highly recommend everybody to attend a church. Journaling is a big thing. Before I go to bed, maybe write something down, maybe read something, Spend time and focus on trying to be present during day-to-day life. It's very important. And I think us as entrepreneurs, we tend to, always strive for more, for better, for delayed gratification, and we tend to strip ourselves from the present moment, and we just need to become aware of that, right? So yeah, look at that, look how beautiful that looks. So the main point that I'm trying to drive across in this video is to strike a balance between primal habits and how we have evolved to live as humans and modern technology and improvement. I'm not saying to rebuke all modern technology, right? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that, when we look at the medical industry of today's day and age, right? Like, we need to realize that, and I'm not saying all, right? Okay, but I am saying that we need to realize that the medical industry is in a very large degree also a business, right? And businesses need to drive profit. And what I've realized is, in my own personal experience, is when I look at the medical industry, it's very symptom orientated. You feel like this, you got this, you feel depressed, anxious, whatever, here's a pill, use the pill, you're going to feel better. And that is the case, right? But if we don't use, and this is why I believe doctors do this, is to give you the pill, to give you the necessary energy or power to now focus on the main issue, the underlying issue that's actually happening here, the core fundamental problem that's causing the symptom. What most people are doing is just taking the pill to get rid of the symptom. But that's actually not taking charge of what's actually happening, right? It's like spray painting a dead leaf green. When it's raining, bro, push comes to shove, the paint's going to disappear. You're going to realize that the leaf is still dead, no matter what pill you are taking. So I want to focus on the foundation. Why are we feeling depressed and anxious or unhealthy or overweight, right? And so when these certain pills and stuff can help, and the pharmaceutical industry to a large degree, I think is supposed to be positive and to lead to improvement, right? But I think in misuse, what is currently happening is we take one pill, we're feeling better for like a month or two, then that pill, starts to equalize or whatever, and it starts to bring up different problems that we take a different pill for. And so what I'm saying is, forget the fucking pills, bro. Focus on the core fundamentals, the pillars that we spoke about in this video. And I really hope I'm getting this point across, and that it serves you, this information serves you as much as it has served me and my clients in the past couple of months and years since I've been implementing it. And if you're confused in any manner, hit me up on Instagram, and I'd love to have a little chat with you to see where I can improve, right? I still got a free school community as well down in the description where we can have a little chat. And if you made it thus far, comment a sun emoji, and I just appreciate every single one of you. So have a good day. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.